Things in life are very weird sometimes, you know, like sometimes something special happens. You might realize that it's kind of special at the time, but you don't kind of want to think about it and try to have fun, and then it ends, and then you never know if that thing's going to come back again.
In the dark, in the dark, in the dark of the night, all the words and the things that I held inside, coming out of my head. Can you feel it? You can feel it?
The first experience I had ever writing a song was with my dad. I think I was like 7 years old. It was one really weird night. I remember that night felt magical in the first place before this even happened. It was a super starry night. And my dad played music, but he didn't like, you know, always openly say like, I'm a musician. You pull out the guitar every now and then and, you know, randomly like play a song. But they were all old country western songs, and I never really heard him like try to like write his own song. This one night, he decided that he wanted to write his own song. He brought me outside, and we started like working on lyrics together. He was like, "What about this word, John?" You know, and I don't remember what it was, but I like made up a word, and he used it, and I got like super excited about it. I'm 36 years old, and I have a 4-year-old son named Cole. I would like for him, when he gets older, to think back, you know, after I die, and then think that, man, my dad, you know, was serious about this, and he had something to say. Because really all you have after you die is what people say about you, you know. So, you know, I'm trying to like leave a legacy. Music, like nearly, I know it sounds cliche, but it nearly saved my life.
What you want?
I grew up my parents were very religious, and I was in a, you know, religion with them till, you know, I was 13 or 14. Well, we weren't like allowed to like bring any music from like outside the house like into the house, you know. So anytime I wanted to like listen to something, I would have to like sneak it in.
You can never go back home.
I fell in love with music, and I felt like
What you love, you can't have.
to them I was choosing music over like my life, because like they didn't want me to do it so much.
You want it all so bad.
It was like either I become like, you know, a Christian or something like that, and then like dedicate my life to God, or separate myself from my entire family. I came home one night, and my dad was upset about something I did. I think he thought I hung out too late. He told me that I didn't live there anymore.
And you know where.
I ended up like calling my brother, asking for help, asked if I could stay with him. So then I moved in with him.
You can never go back home.
I don't know how it happened. We were just like hanging out, and then he just showed me like a chord, like a power chord, like, you know, it was the easiest chord ever. And I like immediately got obsessed with it. And I think I wrote a song in a half hour. And I remember like consciously going, this is the start of me. This is like the start of it all. At some point, I think I was working at the casino.
Can't even think.
I just like couldn't take like the rat race. Like I remember, I think it was one time went to go smoke a cigarette in the cafeteria, and I remember specifically looking around at everybody, like, you know, hundreds of people like smoking cigarettes, talking to each other, and I felt like my life is like being wasted. It's like going by and like watching all these people like every day go there, do your job, go home, and I think I just decided that I want to take a chance. You know, I decided that I needed to be in a band, and so did some like research and like figured out like everything that I needed to get to be in a band. So, you know, I went and bought an amp, guitar stand, a mic cable, PA system, everything. So in case I like came across somebody, I would already have like everything that I needed.
We both grew up in Ashaway, and we both went to school together, but I was best friends with John's younger brother, Rob.
But I think I remember like my brother telling me that Tony always he wanted to be my friend or something like that. And I was like, really? He's way younger than me.
He ended up moving back around the area when he got divorced, and a roommate of mine who was a mutual friend of ours called me up at work and asked if I wanted to go over and hang out with John, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen him in a long time.
I went like hung out with him, and then he told me that he was starting this band.
We went over and John and I just ended up playing guitar that night, and it was a really weird, like an instant connection kind of thing. And Shane didn't even know that we hadn't even played together. He was like, oh man, how long have you guys been playing together? And we looked at each other, we were like 10 minutes? You just brought us here, so. I was playing in an acoustic duo, and we recorded an album, and I ended up giving John a copy, and he just really, he dug the songs and liked where we were going with it, so that's kind of how In the Woods formed.
But it's you I love the best, no matter where you are.
That was like the first band that I was ever in.
My back is sore.
So I was super attached to it. Like, you know, when we broke up, it like broke my heart. I was like hurt. I like loved that band. You know, I thought we'd play forever.
Good night.
I think me and Tony had a conversation about just wanting to have a band that was just fun.
I think it was John that had come up with the idea of having a gimmick.
We got in an argument over what we're gonna call it, and I think Tony was just like, let's just call it Mustache.
This next song's called Mustache. And so that's when we started writing songs like Thank God for Ernest Borgnine, which was a song about how much I loved Airwolf.
Thank God for Ernest Borgnine.
I considered him my musical partner. You know, I never wanted to end. You know, I imagined that one way or the other that me and him would end up playing music forever. You know, I felt like I needed him. You know, I definitely didn't feel confident enough in myself to try to front a band by myself, or I don't even think I actually even wanted to. I enjoyed having, you know, like my brother, like playing with me.
In the Woods went out like a lion. Mustache went out like a lamb, kind of.
I think Tony didn't want to do it anymore. I think he just got disenchanted with, I don't know, disenchanted with playing music. I think he maybe wanted to, you know, he has a daughter. I think he maybe wanted to concentrate on being a father at that time.
I was going through some really tumultuous personal stuff with my marriage, and it was stuff that I didn't have the focus that I did in the beginning.
He basically told me that he didn't want to do it anymore, and that he felt like the whole time that he had been holding me back.
But I don't think that band ended badly, because John and I were still good friends.
And that he knew that if he didn't let me, you know, keep going, that he would feel guilty, because he knew that him not wanting to do it was part of the reason that we weren't making it, you know. So he told me that I should start a band without him. About 3 months before I moved to London, my son Cole was born. During that first year, I kind of like thought that, like, because I was working a lot anyway, I was a chef at Two Wives, I kind of thought that if I worked really hard on music during that first year while he was a baby, in my own mind, maybe like a years down the road, if I had made it, like he wouldn't have noticed that I wasn't there that much. No matter what was offered to me, I would never go out on the road long enough to not be able to be a good dad to him. But I figured I'd sacrifice a little bit during those first like couple of years. I don't want to be a chef or anything like that. I want to be a musician. I figured that I'd have to sacrifice a little bit, which overall like ended up like affecting my like relationship. I was working at Two Wives, and I decided that I want to start this band. And the first person I talked to, not even, you know, I necessarily wasn't even talking to him about joining a band. I was just telling him that I wanted to start a band, was Jay Silva. He told me that, well, he played drums, and I never thought he played drums for some reason.
I mean, I don't even think I realized that I was just like a striving, like, I want to play drums, you know, kind of thing. So it's like, I'll play drums.
And he said that he had an old raggedy drum set at the practice space, and you know, that night we should just like go play and see what happens.
In and it's very like, you know, it's two pieces, me and John, so it's guitar and drums, and I had like this makeshift kit with like this crappy cymbals, and like we were just like stressed and just wanted to release all our, you know, tension out on these instruments.
I remember him like screaming and yelling the whole time while I was playing, like, and I couldn't believe how like excited he was. Like, you know, I don't know. I knew that I felt like that we had something. I wrote the first like 3 rock songs, and then I showed them to Tony. You know, I like went and met with Tony, not to like join the band or anything like that. I don't think he ever thought that I could write songs like that. So I think when he heard them, he immediately like wanted to play.
I had asked John, I was like, listen, man, I've got time on my hands, and I need something to distract me because I'm really, really depressed.
Right in the very beginning, he was having a lot of problems in his marriage, and he had a lot of pent-up anger, and simultaneously, separately from him, I actually did too. He related to the songs I was writing because he was kind of feeling it, but it was in a different way. You know, we were both kind of going through, separate breakups. I felt like the reason I wrote those songs was it's kind of like a healing thing to try to help me get through it. And I think there was the same thing was happening for him.
The first time I played with those guys and we played those VHS songs, it was a perfect fit. I mean, it was just an instant musical fit for me. And the songs were coming from a place where, I mean, John was also going through a lot of personal stuff, and I mean, it was just the perfect outlet for all the anger that I had.
He asked to join, and it was weird because I remember saying to him, being like, well, if you join the band, then I'm gonna be the leader, which is like weird, so you're gonna have to accept it, and it's something that I'm super protective of, because this will be the first band that I started by myself. It was a weird like role reversal, because before in the other bands, even when I had sang, he was always like the leader, and I always kind of followed him. I felt like he was even more experienced musician than I was at that time. It was kind of like all those years of playing in the band together, I started one way and I started to become something else, and him too, I think. I had asked Matt Potter from Fatal Film to record our EP, which is like 5 songs. He said he really liked it a lot, so people just started talking about it really quick.
There was buzz about us before we had ever done anything. That wasn't settling for me, you know what I mean? Like, it made me exceptionally uncomfortable. And then the next thing I knew, it was like, well, wait a minute, like all these people want to talk to me now? Like, they didn't want a damn thing to do with me before.
We played a bunch of shows. We're like, now's the time to play a bunch of shows. And then, playing shows and playing all the time, you have more and more songs, so we had more songs, and we're like, let's take it to the next level.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. We went up to Boston in the fall and started recording with Jeremy from Pretty and Nice.
We did it in a weekend. It was 2 days. It was crazy, and it sounds great. I can't be any more proud of it, honestly.
I had never been so happy with something I ever did because it was completely accomplished.
And we're like, this is it. We're taking it to the next level here. We got a professional sounding album. We're playing tons of shows, playing New York and Providence. The
original plans after that were to go right out on tour.
We were super excited about getting up there and doing it. And then I think it just kind of stalled.
It was personal stuff. It wasn't anything with the band. Like, the band was all of our, release. So it was like multiple kind of like personal things happening. I got a job offer, doing like live shows, stuff that I want to do with like a big company. I had made the choice to do it, and it affected, a lot of people.
Around the same time, I had relapsed the day of my divorce, and then I had been clean again for like a good 6 months, and I started working back at Two Wives with John, and I ended up just falling back into it. And my addiction was heroin, and it's not an easy thing to beat. And it sunk its claws into me really bad. And I OD'd, and it all got to the point to me where I value my sobriety more than anything these days. And I had to come to the realization that I'm a father and my daughter needs me and my fiance loves me and we need each other.
You know, he told me that his heart wasn't in it anymore. And I had kind of gone through this with him before. I think he loves music, you know, loves playing with me. I just think that, you know, I just think he doesn't want it as much as, you know, as I do.
And I knew that there was going to come a point where if I ever slipped up again, then this time it wouldn't be just me suffering. It would be the band. And I knew that Jay and John would end up paying the price for me making a massive mistake, and I wasn't willing to do that. And I knew that it hurt John and Jay that I quit the way I did.
I'm very driven and passionate, and then I always have the, you know, most positive outlook. Like I have a thing where I always feel like when the chips are down, like it's like when I do the best, like when things like look negative. And I was like that for a while, like with the band. And just like recently, I had like given up on it, basically, completely. I think I was just I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. I think I came to terms with it might not go on, you know, we might not ever play again. I know that things in life are like very weird sometimes, you know, like sometimes something special happens. You might realize that it's kind of special at the time, but you don't kind of want to think about it and try to have fun, and then it ends, and then you never know if that thing's gonna come back again, you know, because life is like that, you don't know, like maybe, you know, that's just something I was thinking, and maybe that was just maybe that was just maybe that little time, you know, maybe I'll end up not playing music anymore and be working at some casino and stuff like that, and say that I used to be in this band that was almost made it. Sometimes when I'm really tired and we work all day, like 11, 12 hours, and then go practice till like 3 in the morning, I always like use thinking about my son for like, you know, extra like motivation. I'm basically obsessed with trying to make it by the time I would say, you know, he's 10 years old. You know, a lot of times I'm really exhausted and I barely have any energy, but you know, I start thinking about like, you know, how little time I have and how much I gotta push to do it, and I get like extra energy. I wasn't sure if the band was gonna go on anymore. We didn't have a bass player, and Jay Silva was on, you know, was off working. That band's like my baby, and like, you know, I couldn't just like replace them, both those guys with other people. You know, I'm becoming older now, you know, and I can't wait forever.
John and I were always set that it's not over ever. Like it was never like, I don't know, it was never a thing. It was like, if Tony has to leave or whatever, then we're gonna keep going.
Jay came back from, I think he was in Las Vegas or something this time. Came back to visit one night, asked me to come jam out with him. Just weirdly, Tim like asked if he could sit in, and for some reason I never thought of him ever. You know, in all my thoughts of like trying to find somebody to play bass, like I never thought of him ever playing bass.
Tim was like the guy that were like, Tim, like we need a bass player. So he's like, you know, racking his brain of like bass players. I like remember like all these conversations of him like, you know, suggesting people.
And it just happened that I ended up on bass while Johnny was there and Jay was on drums. And, you know, eventually it was just the three of us, and Johnny was like, hey, let's play, I forget what song it was. A couple of VHS songs though.
It felt right, like right away. It felt like the band again, but new.
I'd seen the whole development of the band happen, you know, as a friend and as a fan. You know, I loved going to see him and being there as it was all happening. I kind of already knew the vibe of the band, and so I think it ended up being an easy fit or something.
I think we should change the set list a little bit.
Okay, what are you thinking?
I gotta look at it. Yeah.
I didn't want to have a huge comeback show or anything yet. It was one day before a year. It was like 364 days since our last VHS show. So I thought it'd be kind of cool and funny if people were like walking around and then like hear it and go like, is that straight to VHS? Are they still playing? Like, that's kind of what I wanted to do, just to kind of like get people like talking about it again.
Honestly, we didn't care if anybody showed up that day. Like, it was just like, we just had to play. Like, it didn't matter, you know what I mean? We really didn't give a shit if there was nobody there. We were just ready to go. And then the fact that there were people there and we were like feeding off each other, and we were like, oh my God, this is incredible.
It's like Christmas, but better.
Ultimately, this album means the completion of a most gigantic part of my life.
See them, they are here.
I feel like the time frame from when I joined the band and we came out our first EP and then went to record this album was kind of like a storyline in my mind, and it's unfinished. That story, that the part that I started and I worked so hard for, like never got finished and completed.
We did it!
When we recorded it, I think it's like over 2 years now, or around 2 years now that we recorded it. You know, it was like the high point of my band, and I thought that I kind of, in a daydreaming way, thought when it came out that it would be like the next step right before, you know, going on tour and start to like really try to make it, and everything kind of got halted. Because we went through the break and we had to figure out what was going to happen next, like it makes things even more like, you know, powerful for us to like keep going with it and like keep writing songs and like staying close, all of us, you know, with Tony.
Well, I know they put a lot of work into it, you know, they put their heart and soul into it, and you know, obviously it's for Tony, it's going to be a cool thing because it's something that's still going to, you know, even though he's not in the band, he's still like has work that's going to get, you know, noticed and appreciated, because he obviously put a lot of good work into it.
I guess it's bittersweet. You know, I miss it. You know, I mean, I miss the practices, and I miss having that brotherhood. You know, being in a band that close is like a family. I think it's cool now because I could actually be friends with him without all this extra stuff.
Oh, that's the final song order? Nice.
You know, I'm clean and sober from drugs, and it's going really well, actually. And I'm way more productive musically than I ever was with the stuff.
You should listen to it. It goes, the transitions are cool.
When you ask, will you come back? And I will say I surely will.
I had this brain full of mess that it wasn't going anywhere. And I didn't realize that it wouldn't go anywhere until I picked up a guitar and I started writing again. So I guess that's like the sweet part of it, you know, of not being in VHS anymore, is that I can watch those guys excel and I can be happy for them.